never talked to fear, you know, when we were sitting around the club having a soda pop or something, or whatever. And we never talked about fear or anything like that, but there was a sort of a general attitude, and I felt that way, that, you know, you're either gonna make it or you're not. You don't have any options. You're assigned to take on a mission and do a job, and you do it. And if we used to say, if a bullet's got your name on it, it'll find you.
Had a direct hit by an 88 right behind the ball turret, and boy, my plane got riddled, and it blew a hole about 2.5 feet in diameter, just ripped up through the bottom of the airplane and just curled the metal up on the inside and exploded inside of the airplane. The fragments all went every direction, shot all sorts of holes in it.
It would always get at least some flight holes. And we had 2 missions which we got shot up badly.
I graduated in 1939, and the war clouds were on the horizon at that time, and I knew things were getting pretty hot.
It started when the Japs attacked Pearl Harbor. There was a general attitude is, how can those so-and-so do that to the United States? And I started thinking of what was I going to do as an individual.
I used the information out of that page in that Collier's magazine and applied for information about the flying cadet program. My instructor had black leather gloves, black leather trousers, black leather coat and helmet, all the way through was black. And I think everybody called him the Black Falcon. He called me stupid ass. And he said, I guess you're a cowboy, aren't you? Then he'd take that stick and work it like that, you know, against my knees.
I'd seen airplanes on Louisiana maneuvers, and they were throwing flour sacks, about 2 pounds of flour out, bombing us, you know. We thought that was bombing, but I didn't know what it was. But I decided I was going to change from the infantry, and that's when I did. I took a test and started flying in early part of '42. I was a bombardier navigator. I'd started out as a pilot, but the squadron commander just unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, was on my tail when I was buzzing a young lady on a riding cultivator at Corsicana, Texas. And that changed my destiny, but maybe fate was kind to me.
I was 13 pounds underweight. So I went on a diet of potatoes and gravy and drinking an egg malt midday. So anyhow, I gained the necessary, close to the necessary weight. But when I left Norman to go up for my recheck, I bought up half a dozen bananas and sat in the inner urban back by the cedar water keg and drank little cup of water and 8 bananas all the way up to Oklahoma City. The time I got up there on the elevator, I was floating. And the sergeant looked at me and said, "Get over here and weigh in a hurry." I said, "Yeah." I jumped on the scales and he said, "Okay, the restroom's over there." And the instructor in the initial flights rode in the front cockpit and the cadet rode in the back cockpit. The reason being that some people got motion sickness in the airplane and the instructor wanted to be in front of it so the wind slipstream would carry it back.
One time I was out soloing, doing acrobatics, and I knew I was nauseated, smelled the exhaust fumes from that open cockpit, and all of a sudden I upchucked, and I had all my goggles were all covered up with vomit. It was the terriblest mess. I tried to wipe them off, couldn't see. And I got back and landed that thing and went to get a bucket of water and a rag, clean it up, and some other cadet took off before I got a chance to clean it up. And he probably got accused of vomiting in the airplane when he got back.
Before we left, the units at Conowall, 2 units from Ada, Rolfe, Colgate, Allen, and probably maybe some more, all had a parade on about September the 26th, right down the main street of Ada. And I always thought I was fortunate I get to carry the colors.
I thought we were going to fight the Japs because they gave us all our South Sea shots, and we were all vaccinated to go to the Pacific, and we moved from Tampa, Florida, where the group was organized, out to Walla Walla, Washington, and we were the first bomb group out there. And I think the reason they moved us out there that early was because they were afraid of an invasion of the West Coast, and they wanted us to be out there so we could bomb the Japs in case we were needed.
Had Hitler gone ahead with his invasion plans of England early on in the war, it would have been a totally different story. Because then the Allies, like the United States, would have had a tremendous supply line to get troops over there.
I thought Hitler was a pretty nasty guy and needed to be done away with.
The Germans were able to move their flak gun positions by rail. So even though the briefings were perfect, while the Germans would move those flak guns and we'd still get damage on our planes. I think it was about a week, and we'd had one mission. And when that flight came in, there was a German fighter that was up in the clouds just a little bit above our formation. And as our pilots' planes would peel off to come in and land, why, this German fighter would let down out of the clouds and shoot him down. And he shot 6 of our B-17s down just real fast. So we had burning B-17s, quite a few of them, 6 of them, and then a lot of parachutes. And quite a few of the boys were been killed, been shot up. When you're young and you know what your mission is, you don't dwell on things like that. There is no fear. If there was, I don't remember.
We had 12 50s on each plane, and there were 2 of us. We could sling a lot of lead. We'd fly up to Japan every other day, and all the time we were taking on anything that we could scare up. Ships, fishing boats, even air sea rescue if we'd find somebody down in a drink. I remember we sunk an old fishing boat one time, and we dropped our bombs, 500-pounders, in strings of 5. And we dropped coming around here to see what we'd done, and the nose gunner called up, "Mr. Thomas, keep coming on around to the port. There's 2 of them down here trying to get away." And there's 2 old guys in a rowboat. Just, he wanted me to come on around so he could get trained on them, but I didn't. They can't go very far. When the fleet would back off to refuel and rearm and clean up a little bit, we flew between the coast and the fleet to intercept kamikazes. We could just tell them they were coming. We had to have Iwo Jima because they had a radio there that told Japan when the B-29s were coming. Had a weather station there, so we had to have that place. And it cost to take it. As soon as they cleared that one runway, we were there. We'd landed, established a base. We never did see many Japs because they were all holed up. The people, they used to say there were 24,000 Japanese on Iwo Jima, but there was 24,000 in Iwo Jima. They really had elaborate caves. We'd go in a lot of them.
There was a anticipation when we go out, just crank the engine up. And taxi out. My legs might shake a little bit, but as soon as we gave the throttle running, taking off on runway, they're just gone. Dead calm. And our job was to escort the cripples as far as we could. I had this one that was flying down. He was below the little broken clouds and was starting to climb back up on 3 engines. And he starts climbing up, and I'm talking to him. I said, "I'll stay with you as long as I can. I'm getting low on gas, but I'll stay with you as long as I can." So I got him within sight of the coast, and lo and behold, the tail flips off, breaks off of that plane and starts falling off to where the gunner's windows were. And the plane flips over on its back, and I didn't see any chutes come out as it went down below the broken cloud. Every bomber that we saw drop, there was 10 individuals in there. It took 10 people to fly those things. And every one that went down, there was 10 guys gone.
That Wewak Harbor mission, I'll never forget it. We destroyed probably several hundred, at least 300 aircraft on the ground, and that really turned the tide of war. Then we were able to increase the tempo of the advance up the coast toward the Philippines. We flew low level, probably 20 to 100 feet, dropping parafrags on parked Japanese airplanes. There were 4 airfields right there by the harbor, and they all had anti-aircraft gun and Japanese fighters. They were all in the air. I'll never forget that bomb run at about 30 feet on this cargo ship that we sank. Approaching the target, I guess I was terrified. I was sure scared. I felt like I had a chunk of ice in my stomach. And the continuing worry I had was that I'd get shot down and my parents would know where I was. I could see Japanese on the ground. I looked out once and saw one, and I don't know what he was thinking. He was hanging clothes on a clothesline. I guess he just didn't know we were there. 2 Japanese fighters in formation. They did a slow roll right over the top of us at about 50 feet above. And I looked up at the pilot, the lead ship, and he was looking down at me. He was just about 50 feet apart. I've often wondered what happened to him. He went on and shot down our wingman on our left wing.
When I first started flying missions, the fighter mission total for a tour was 35. The bombers was 25.
It was tough to make 25. And in the early days, not very many made it. My last mission that I flew, well, this is the last one. Gosh, a chance to get killed on my last mission. And so I thought about that a lot. After we were finished, oh man, that was a good feeling. Everybody was so excited about the whole deal that they tried to get me drunk and did succeed in doing so. I was not a drinker, but they had me drinking hot rum, if you can imagine that. And I got so sick at the stomach, I lost it. And when I finished, they called me in and asked me if I would like to do 5 more. A lot of my buddies only were half finished. And they all told me, please don't do any more, because if you do more, they'll make everybody do more.
Since France was occupied by the Germans, we had a lot of targets in France. And I couldn't quote the various targets, but I will tell you this: we were very, very careful in our briefings. We stressed not bombing at all if it was going to be necessary, or we might be hitting a church or a school or something like that.
We were carrying a 500-pound bomb under each wing. So anyhow, I went on my pass, pulled the handle as hard as I could. As I'm pulling up, my bomb went in. The first bomb hit this building. The second one stuck. The shackle didn't open until I pulled up pretty sharply like this, and the bomb, I saw it lofted over and hit in the village.
But one of my crew members was flying with another crew as a substitute one day and was killed. Got shot right between the eyes. You felt badly about it, but you couldn't dwell on it. If you did, well then you'd, so to speak, you would crack up. So you just had to keep your mind focused on what you were doing rather than grieving about the losses. Young fellas met some English girls, and I was no exception. I met several also, and one was pretty special, lived out on the farm, and she had a tennis court in the backyard and had chickens on the farm and fresh eggs, and that's something we didn't have at the base. We had powdered eggs and Spam and Brussels sprouts. They first had the bomber raids on London, and they had gone through the Battle of Britain, so to speak, when we arrived over there. But they still had spasmodic rage. Then later on, of course, they had the buzz bombs. The bombing of London got serious again. At the little town near the base, a lone fighter bomber circling overhead. He dropped his bomb, and it was an incendiary magnesium bomb, and it landed about 50 yards from where I was, and I heard the noise of it coming down. So it burned the Brussels sprouts. It didn't even hit a building.
One night, I came home late. The tower at Iwo told me to go circle the island. Said heavy traffic. Came on in, landed, and the guy says, "We got a lot of heavy traffic here. Navy 116. Clear the runway as soon as possible." So we had to go up the other end, turn around, and come back down the runway. But I thought, well, if he's in such a hurry, I'll just turn around here in the middle of the runway. And I turned it over to get a little room to make a turn. Boy, there we were, B-29s on both sides of the runway, all turned up, taking turns to use our strip to make a strike in Honshu. And there I was, just about to run into one of them. We stood up on the pedals. The old plane heaved up, and we finally stopped about 10 feet from their propellers.
One day I was slow timing an engine. I was up about 20,000 feet, 20,000 feet. There were broken clouds. That's generally the way it was in England, always some kind of cloud. And I just rolled over on the back and headed for the deck, and figuring I'd pull up about 1,000 feet. And I go through an opening in the clouds, and my God, there's C-47, the twin-engine transport, each of them pulling 2 gliders. So I found an opening and went down below them and got the heck out of there. We weren't told about it, but it was a training mission for that group to get used to flying and pulling gliders. And they were amongst some of the first people to drop behind inland after when the invasion started. We were top cover for the D-Day operation. Flying to that area, we could see the number of ships crossing the channel. There was a general feeling that we were beating the heck out of them because they weren't putting up fighters as much as they had been. They were hiding trucks and planes and supplies in forests, and we were dropping fire bombs in under them and burning them out. And there was a general feeling that we had them.
We were there when they dropped on Hiroshima. And boy, that scared us because we didn't know. Of course, the plane came from Tinian, and that was our home base. But we didn't know anything about them. And then they said some kind of a atomic weapon has been detonated over the city of Hiroshima, and we didn't. First of all, we found out where Hiroshima was. That wasn't very close. And we didn't know what an atomic device was. And then they said that there was a radioactive cloud in the area to steer clear. Well, we didn't know what radioactive cloud was either. 3 days later, they dropped it on Nagasaki. Then the Jap said, okay, calf rope. They didn't know we just had 2 of them. But that quietened it all down. And we were glad.